We're going to bring out our first keynote speaker, but there have been a lot of other great speakers, yes? I had the opportunity to be here during break, and I was bombarded with people saying it's about time we did something like this. Do you agree? Yeah. So, I'd like to first bring out Guy Benson. Guy, you're still back there. Everybody's been introduced to Guy Benson. You know who he is. He did a great job this morning, Guy. Welcome back out. Eight months ago, if you told me I'd be introducing Ann Coulter in front of 500 people, I'd have told you were probably not taking your medication. So, almost somebody that needs no introduction, for sure. She has written 10 books, all 10 of which have become New York Times bestsellers. How's that? She is a frequent guest on many TV and radio news programs, a highly sought-after speaker. So if you can believe our very first event as a coalition, we have Ann Coulter on the lineup. It's a real pleasure to have a leading advocate for conservative causes. Please welcome Ann Coulter, who tells it like it is. Never trust a liberal over free. Give it up for Ann Coulter.
Thank you. Is this working? Thank you. You are a beautiful crowd. I'm so happy to see it. I was watching on YouTube last night. I'd never seen this before. There's a 1-hour video Barry Goldwater did during the campaign. And it's hilarious. It's called Choice, and you have to look it up online. But I thought it was going to be like a 2-minute commercial. It's a 1-hour film. Who does that anymore? But it's basically showing, all the hippies and degenerates and flag burnings and naked people, and it just keeps flashing choice. And I thought, okay, I got the idea of this. And then through the whole video, there's this car careening wildly out of control. And I thought, okay, I get the idea. I just want to get to the end of this. And at the end, which is the point I'm very desultorily leading to, there is the convention where Barry Goldwater was nominated, and it would break your heart for what a lovely country this was, and I hope can be again. I mean, just such beautiful, well-dressed, calm citizens at that convention. It doesn't look like Walmart. Or wherever you see large groups of people anymore. No tattoos.
Hello, Ann.
Hello.
We are very pleased to have her, and we thought that we really needed to liven things up after that snore fest that we just had out here, where everyone was just calm, retiring. And we were actually talking backstage. She asked, have we met before? And I said, actually, we've met 11 years ago when I was a freshman at college, and the CRs brought Ann to speak at my alma mater, and it actually went pretty well. You weren't booed, you weren't hissed, there were good questions. It was
fantastic. I wrote at the beginning of one of my books, this was at Northwestern, and by the way, he was a Marxist back then, heard me speech, changed his life forever. That actually has happened to me. Just a quick diversion before coming back to Northwestern. I was up at Syracuse a few years ago, and this one kid, I go to dinner with the college Republicans after the speech, and this one kid kept telling me what happened what the Greens were talking about, and at their meeting they're doing this. Oh, and another thing they said, and I finally said to him, what, are you like a mole for the Green Party up here? And he said, oh no, I used to be a member. And I said, well, what flipped you? And he said, well, it was right after 9/11, and you came to speak, and you were the only one who made any sense. So I left the Greens and signed up with the college Republicans, which does give you a little hint on why liberals want to shut me down. But what I wrote in one of my books, we always make fun of Harvard, but it's actually the college speeches I've learned from experience. They are different from what you would expect. I can tell how much crap I'm going to get from the kids, basically by looking at the average SAT scores. And surprisingly, it's the better schools where they are the politest. Because, I mean, somebody at Harvard, they have too much pride to stand up, stamp their feet, and say, "You're ugly." And so I distinctly remember Northwestern because it was a huge crowd, obviously a lot of them liberals, but they were A, polite, and as at Harvard and all the good schools, they stood up and asked me questions. They want to challenge you. So I think I complimented them at the end saying, "You guys are as good as Harvard."
You did, and the most memorable moment in the Q&A that I recall was someone, I guess a few members of the faculty, had written a letter to the editor of the Daily Northwestern protesting that you were coming, and of course it was the faculty that was most upset, and they said, "This is nothing short of a university-sponsored hate rally," is what they wrote. So this person got up and read that, asked if you would sign a copy of this letter. So you said yes, he brought it down, and you signed it with hate, Ann Coulter.
and note, it's like the dog that didn't bark in Sherlock Holmes. What's interesting about that story? Oh, the professors were too pussified to come and actually ask a question at my speech. Oh no, let's just write a letter.
And we've seen now, just in the last few weeks, a number of instances where a small vocal minority of students, backed by members of the faculty at Rutgers and Smith College and elsewhere, getting very qualified, impressive female speakers disinvited to speak or dropping out basically for fear of offending the sensibilities of these people. It seems to be an escalating trend. What do you make of it?
Yeah, it's gotten so bad that even the New York Times denounced this. There was, I'm probably mispronouncing it, I've never had to say her name out loud, I just read it, but the head of the IMF, that Christine or something Legrand, she was speaking at Smith College, but Smith College decided that having a woman as the head of the IMF was promoting imperialism and patriarchy. So she was kicked out, replaced by some, just coincidentally, and by the way, I love white males. But, you know, for people who are so worried about patriarchy, in all cases, they were replaced by kind of milquetoast white males. And of course, Condi Rice, because the little darlings at Rutgers couldn't bear to hear someone who disagreed with them. Timothy Egan wrote about it in the New York Times this week, and at first I'm sort of going along with him. Usually I only read him because I hate him. And unlike most normal people, I guess, I really enjoy watching and reading things I hate, thus my intense familiarity with everything that happens on MSNBC. So I'm going along with him, and he's saying, this isn't what a commencement speech is supposed to be, getting some snooze fest who won't offend anybody. I don't care if I disagree with you. Get up, be quick, be funny, make me disagree with you. And this was you always look for, okay, where's the trick line in the New York Times column? He had this line, it's a special trick of the left. He said something like, and this season, weirdly, it seems to the speech banning seems to be mostly from the left. That is a particular lying technique of the New York Times because it's better than just asserting it. It's sort of assuming facts not in evidence, so someone who's not paying attention is thinking, well, I guess that means the speech censorship normally comes from the right wing. Well, name a case. The one case he could come up with was a police academy. A police academy didn't want Eric Holder, it was some Arizona town or something. Eric Holder, the man behind Fast and Furious. That's your comparison? And it's not just college campuses. I mean, there's the Chick-fil-A, and by the way, that's what they're serving to the VIPs. I love this group. There's Chick-fil-A, there's Duck Dynasty, there are these two handsome twins with the HGTV show Flip It Forward. Oh, they're Christians, their show got canceled. There's Mozilla. It really, have all liberals been trained in Red China to learn how to engage in sensitivity. It's really getting out of control. And whenever it is possible for us to fight back, we do win. There was no way to fight back on Mozilla. Duck Dynasty came back on. The two brothers whose show was dumped from HGTV, and God bless them, they just said, oh, we don't care. We're just living the Lord's word. Shows come, shows go. But I didn't even see this because of that hubbub. The bank that had given them loans for the properties they're flipping, some little jackass branch manager said, oh, we're pulling their loans. And I forget what bank it was, but SunTrust. Yeah. SunTrust. They got so much pushback that within 24 hours they're sending out notices. No, this was revoked. This was just a branch manager. So, whenever normal people can speak back, and I'd say the same thing with gay marriage. I mean, liberals are going around boasting, oh, we're winning, we're changing people's minds. Whose minds have you changed? The left-wing judges on the courts already agreed with you. Every time people can vote, it's now 38-2 against gay marriage, and then judges come in, it's just like the abortion ruling, and, oh, sorry, we lost through democracy. We'll just say it's unconstitutional. But do not believe that is changing. They always cite young people, your people. And as I wrote about a few weeks ago, I've been hearing this my whole life. Oh, look, young people, liberal on social issues, conservative on economic issues. Have a tip for you, New York Times. Young people get older. They have jobs, they have kids, they have mortgages, and suddenly their opinions are just like mine.
I've heard that you have strong opinions about immigration reform. What are they?
Yes, it's pretty much me, Mickey Kaus, and Laura Ingraham against the world. But we are right. I was thinking just yesterday, the immigration issue right now is what the Equal Rights Amendment and of the abortion issue was 20 years ago, before I was even paying attention to politics, when I was a fetus who could have been aborted. And that is the entire Republican Party, and of course the Democratic Party, come up with a good idea there on it, like, white on rice. The entire Republican Party supported abortion, all of the leaders. Abortion wasn't even as bad as the Equal Rights Amendment. Equal Rights Amendment, both party platforms supported the Equal Rights Amendment, which would have been, for the youngsters here, it would have been an utter disaster. It's just turning everything over to the courts. We would have had, girls in the military without having to wait for Obama. Both political platforms supported the Equal Rights Amendment. Nixon supported it, Pat Nixon supported it, Ford's wife supported it. It seemed to be uniform. But the people were against it, and we only needed one brave politician, and in particular with the help of Phyllis Schlafly, one brave politician to come out and say no. And immigration is like that now. If we could take a moratorium on it, I bet you 80% of Americans, and I am not merely as an aside including, I am especially including Black Americans and Hispanic Americans, the ones who are hurt most by dumping millions of low-wage workers on the country every year. We would have a mandate. 80%, I bet you, would vote for an immediate moratorium on all immigration. And meanwhile, the Wall Street Journal and the lobbyists and the Chamber of Commerce and everyone surrounding all these politicians, no, we need amnesty. It's so popular. We need to appeal to Hispanics, Why on earth would Hispanics want more Hispanics coming in competing for their jobs? They're in. And how are we going to be paying for the schools, the roads, not to mention health care, housing benefits, food stamps? It will bankrupt the country. Everyone sees that. I don't care how many studies they cite. Everyone knows this is a fraud, this idea, oh no, immigrants, they're good for the economy. Everyone hears that the same way we all heard, Obamacare will save money. Wait, really? You're going to cover another 40 million and save money? How does that work? No, we have the study right here. This is what the immigration saves money studies sound like. It is so massively counterintuitive. No, dumping 1.2 million poor immigrants, 90% from the third world, on the country every single year does not save money. We know that. It is bankrupting the country. And gosh, I mean, you people certainly know it. In the rest of the country, I have to say, look at what happened to California. The most beautiful state in the Union, the state that gave us Ronald Reagan and Richard Nixon, cannot elect a Republican statewide. And that's going to start happening. I mean, I hope we have not hit the tipping point yet, but they are gunning for Texas and Florida. And once those two states flip, it's over. No Republican wins another presidential election. We're already, so when we're having to fight for our lives for Virginia and North Carolina, Colorado, New Hampshire. Well, New Hampshire isn't immigration except from New York. No, New Hampshire and Vermont are an example of the point that immigrants, and by definition, every immigrant coming to this country is coming from a less free country, often very socialist countries, often very corrupt countries. You would think, we all think, and you get some like this, God bless them, who come here and say, I came here for freedom. No, usually people bring their cultures with them. That's what happened to Vermont and New Hampshire. New Yorkers moved up there. North Carolina, it's happening to North Carolina. I just gave a speech in North Carolina last week. I was warning them. You guys, forget restrictions down in Mexico. You need restrictions from New York. But you know, the only politicians at the moment, we can fully trust on immigration are Jeff Sessions, Senator Jeff Sessions from Alabama, Steve King, and he's fantastic. And the rest of them need to be educated, and that's where we come in. They haven't heard enough from the people. It's the strangest thing, the immigration debate. I would debate anyone, anytime with the biggest audience on immigration, but the media is helping both the Democrats and the corporate welfare people, the ones who want the cheap labor, by not allowing us to have the debate. It's the only issue. You can hear both sides of the abortion debate. You can hear both sides of the war in Iraq. You can hear both sides even on gay marriage. These are things that get talked about on TV. You don't even hear about immigration unless I go on TV and then ask me anything. I can turn it into an immigration answer. Anything.
Now, somewhat tangentially related, one of your bugaboos that you've been writing about recently is, let's just do actually a show of hands. How many of you think Senator Mitch McConnell is part of the problem with the Republican Party? And what do you think?
Okay. All politicians are going to let you down once they get elected. C.E.G. Marco Rubio. Our big Tea Party hero who ran against Charlie Crist, attacking Crist for supporting a pathway to citizenship as soon as he gets to Washington. And my first bill is amnesty. So, you know, in general, I prefer incumbents because if they're Republicans, A, they have a good chance of winning re-election, and you know, don't waste money, time, and energy when we need to be taking out Democrats. But B, that's as bad as they're ever going to get. Whereas if you're taking somebody from out of the blue, and for that I'd say Richard Murdoch. And Richard Murdoch, who ran against a not particularly good incumbent, I admit, Richard Lugar, and Murdoch was, I mean, he didn't seem to be stupid. But then 2 weeks after Aiken starts talking about what a woman's body goes through during what he calls a legitimate rape. And look, I understand what he was saying. I could have said something like that. By the way, I promise you all, I will never run for office. No we have different roles. There are people like me and you and maybe all of you, except the ones who are running for office. Never say legitimate rape. Never talk about what happens to a woman's body after a rape. What are you doing to us? And then politician. We want to change, people like me, change the debate. Get people thinking, get a debate going. People like them running for office reflect what a majority of people already believe. Even after Aiken makes his idiotic remarks, 2 weeks later, Richard Murdoch does the exact same thing. The exact same thing. I keep imagining, his campaign consultant thinking, do you think we need to go tell him? I'm sure you know this, but should someone ask you, as every reporter will ask every Republican, about abortion in the case of rape, just say, yes, fine, and now we want to talk about the other 1 million abortions a year. Try not to get into the abortion or a pregnancy in the case of rape is a gift from God. No, say no more, no worries here. No, 2 weeks later, he says the same thing. Okay, so this is why I have a preference for incumbents. The only reason I think you should ever be challenging incumbents, at least this year, I reserve the right to change my mind if we Republicans run up huge majorities in the House and Senate, is if they're bad on immigration. That's everything. That isn't one little litmus test issue. We lose immigration. We lose across the board. We lose everything. We lose Obamacare. We lose the country. It's over if we don't win on immigration. And Mitch McConnell voted the right way on immigration. There happen to be other things I like about Mitch McConnell. Majority leaders generally are not the favorite of right-wingers because they have to represent all of the Republicans in the Senate, including John McCain. Including the girls from Maine and the girl from South Carolina, Lindsey Graham. But McConnell did two things, even in that tough position, as an incumbent, as someone who gets, and one thing before getting to that, everyone thinks of Kentucky like it's Alabama. Look at their governors. They've had 60 years of solid Democratic governors, interrupted only 2 times by one-term Republican governors for 60 years. We could lose that seat. Kentucky is not Alabama, it's not Utah. So in addition to McConnell voting against amnesty, voting against Marco Rubio's bill, I still remember him and love him for the campaign finance fight he put up. He was the Ted Cruz of trying to shut down conservative speech. Liberals own the mainstream media. The only way we can fight back is through our campaign ads. Mitch McConnell has been fighting the McCain-Feingold bill on beautiful, clear constitutional grounds for 20 years. And then finally, and this I've never seen any other majority leader do it, not Trent Lott, not Bob Dole, not who was the doofus before?
Frist? Bill Frist?
Was he majority leader?
Sure was.
Oh my gosh, that's embarrassing. You see, majority leaders tend not to be, our most fire-breathing Republicans, but McConnell has pretty much voted right. He also, and again, I haven't seen any of the rest of them do this, managed to make every single Republican in the Senate vote against Obamacare, and that is so important. That is so important. Not one Republican voted for that bill, and that's including, again, all the girls in the Senate.
So we have just a few minutes left. Quick housekeeping note. Immediately following this interaction, Anna's going to be back in the lobby signing books. So please race safely back there and buy her book if you don't have it, and she'll sign them for you. She also has a DVD out as well.
Oh, yeah, I wanted to tell you about the DVD, because I'll never do this again. When I was young and foolish, I had some liberal friends, big writer for the New York Times, but she's pretty sane. And documentary film producer, and they had a PBS documentary they were going to do. They had the grant for it on Ramsey Clark. Remember that completely insane attorney general under Jimmy Carter? And after they pursued him and were following around for a few weeks, they said, "He's really boring. Can we do you, Ann?" So since they were friends of mine, I let them come with me about my day, including back in the Fox makeup rooms. We drove out to New Canaan, Connecticut, where I'm from. They chit-chatted with my mother. When the New York Times would denounce me, we'd go buy the paper on the street of New York, and I'd read it aloud with my running commentary. And I've never watched it because I don't like to watch myself. But we still have, they had some left over. They sold them to me. So we still have some of those. And I just want to tell you, if you don't get it now, you will never have a chance to see this again, because I would never agree to do this now. I am so private now.
Last but not least, you asked me to ask you about, you have some thoughts on the 2016 field. So let's close with that.
Yeah, this is very important. I won't tell you who it should be, but I do want to say there are 3 things I want you to consider before deciding on a presidential nominee. Number 1, it must be a governor or former governor or senator, preferably governor. I've made this mistake. It's not going to happen. You cannot be for, I mean, think of the ones I've been, Pat Buchanan, Steve Forbes, Duncan Hunter. No, I run off on these enthusiasms too. It's not going to happen. It's like chasing the mechanical rabbit. Let's get serious so we don't waste the time attacking one another. It's got to be a former governor or a former senator. I'm sorry, no Ben Carson. I know, but we have to take the country back. Point 2. Point 2, we can't run idiots like the Democrats can. It's got to be someone smart, charismatic, reasonably attractive. I'm not going to name the ones who are not reasonably attractive. But I will tell you during the book signing. 3, which is ground I think I've sufficiently covered. Every Republican voted against the only things that matter: Obamacare, and most importantly, immigration. Every Republican voted against Obamacare. 3, the 3rd prong, is nothing but immigration. That is why, upsetting people who were not paying attention or reading the facts, I was such a ferocious supporter of Mitt Romney's. He is the best candidate of either party on the issue of immigration to run for president in my lifetime. Yes. Openly pushing for E-Verify. In that Florida debate, you seem like a politically active crowd, so I'm probably just reminding you, in that Florida debate, Florida, with so many Hispanics in Florida, that was the debate where Newt Gingrich accused Mitt Romney of wanting to send grandmothers home. Remember that? And Mitt Romney basically said, yes, I do. In the Republican primary that year, proving a point I made at the beginning here, in the Republican primary, Mitt Romney got more of the Hispanic vote than of the non-Hispanic vote in that primary. And that's after a debate where he said, yes, I do want to send illegal grandmothers home. He never backed down. For some reason, the entire, I don't know why, it's the influence of, I don't know, Wall Street Journal or something. Rupert Murdoch, totally pro-amnesty. When Romney famously met with Rupert Murdoch during the campaign, he sits there with Murdoch and the Wall Street Journal editorial board, and they were all haranguing him to change his position on immigration. And he said no. No, that's the most important issue. So governor or senator, charisma, attractiveness, immigration. That's all you have to remember.
Thank you, Ann Coulter.
Thank you. I'll see you at the book signing. This was fun. Thank you very much.